because Toronto's pretty stacked on offense. Um, I don't know, but that's certainly a possibility. And I would love to see Nylander here in New York. I mean, he is probably a a second line player. He's outstanding. So he would be a wonderful addition. As far as going to the trade deadline, I would imagine, and the rumors are all out there about Hayes and even Zuccarello. It's not something that the fans would like to think about, but he is certainly a possibility to be traded, and maybe someone that a team might want to either rent or resign. So we're going to have to see. I don't know. I don't know that anyone else is a possibility. I think they'd like to keep Shea. I don't know that Smith or Stahl would be of, a highly prized defenseman. I don't know about Shattenkirk either. I don't think he's going anywhere, obviously, given what he signed and the contract.
So it's safe to say guys like Zuccarello and Hayes, who are on their last years of their contracts, would probably fetch you the most as far as a return value.
Right. That's right.
And listen, that's something that we kind of seen this over the last couple of years as fans, seeing this core of the Ranger team that we were familiar with, 3, 4, even the last 5 years. But this is the new direction of the team. This is where they want to build their foundation. And before we move on to the other two local teams, speaking briefly on the foundation, I understand, Leslie, that you are very much involved in a lot of the prospects in this organization and looking at some of these kids that they have drafted and what they're doing. Just quickly,
right.
If you could give us a little bit of a report of what's going on in the Rangers' farmland, if you will.
Well, the surprise in the Rangers' farmland is Stephen Fogarty, who I've been projecting for years to be maybe a borderline NHLer. I was a little surprised even that they re-signed him. Boy, are they smart, and I'm glad I'm not the person who was making those decisions. He now leads Hartford in points. He's turned into a very solid two-way player, and I would expect to see him up in New York before the end of the season. Certainly maybe sooner than later. I mean, this guy can play both ends of the ice. He's a solid face-off guy. So he's a center. Really, he's the big surprise, at least for me, and I also think for other people. He played well in the preseason here in New York too, in camp anyway, and I just think he's going to be an NHLer. It's a surprise a little bit to me. On defense, we have several guys who were, in. Well, let me just go back and say that one of my favorite defensemen is Brendan Crawley, and he's playing well in Hartford. He's developing. He's in his second year, and he's a good player. And then there's the goaltending, which Shesterkin continues to impress in Russia, and I think he has one more year on his contract after this, and he all indications are that he will come over. At least indications from the team.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you mentioned him, Shesterkin. Just when the Rangers, PR department, tweets out the numbers of Shesterkin and what he's doing over there, it's just incredible. Now, I get it. The KHL is vastly different from the NHL, but I mean, the numbers that this kid is putting up, I mean, if you're a Ranger fan, you really have to be thrilled. I mean, we have been fortunate and blessed as Ranger fans to have Henrik Lundqvist in our net and him putting up the success that he has in the 13 seasons that he's been here. But you're looking at these numbers, and I know they're just numbers, and we won't see anything until he comes over to the NHL side of things. But, I mean, this kid is really impressive. What is it, the last 2 or 3 seasons, he maybe has a combined 7 or 8 losses? I mean, it's just insane to look at when you see these numbers.
And the KHL is not as bad as you're making it out to be. It's a very good league. So the question is, will he come? Remember, the KHL has no salary cap. So, and the team he's playing for, St. Petersburg, he says a wealthy team, one of the wealthier teams. So we're going to have to see. But he's an outstanding prospect, and I've been calling him the heir to Henrik for a long time.
Yep.
I'm not sure that actually will come to pass. I'm hoping. But there are a couple of other netminders who are doing well also in college, and particularly Adam Huska, who's playing at UConn, and people in New York can go see him. He's playing in Hartford, and he's getting shutouts, and he's playing extremely well, and he has for 3 seasons now. And then there was Tyler Wall, who had a bad season in Lowell, UMass Lowell last year, but he's rebounded. He had a great freshman year, then he had a sophomore slump, and now he's rebounded, and he's playing really well. So I think he's in his junior year. I'm not entirely sure. I know he had a bad season last year. I believe he's in his junior year. But he's rebounded. He's playing well, and he looks good. I've seen some video of him. He's looking really like he's regained his form. And so in goal, we have Georgiev, who is the backup now and looks good. And we've got 3 other netminders who are perhaps excellent future players. So I think that the system, and we haven't even talked about Brett Howden, who is somewhat of a surprise in the sense that we weren't sure he was going to be ready to play in the NHL this season. He was out 1 game, but he'll be back tomorrow night. He's okay.
So it's safe to say that Ranger farmland is looking pretty good and finally able to, I can't say cash in just yet, but get these draft picks and be able to draft in the first round, because we've seen over the years first round picks traded away from the Rangers in order to improve their team are finally coming to fruition, if you will, and really building this foundation that this organization and that Jeff Gorton wants to do.
Yes. I'm still a bit concerned as far as if you were going to ask me where do I think they're the weakest. I still think that they could use a power forward or 2 in the system. I like Morgan Barron, who is at Cornell, but I would like them to see them draft a power forward. I also would like to see them load up more on defense. I mean, I love Condre Miller, but I think that
I agree.
It wouldn't hurt. It never hurts to have too much D.
Not at all. And sitting there at the game the other night, and I kind of tweeted it out, and I said, when was the last time, and I mean, this is an easy question, but when was the last time the Rangers had a bomb from the point on the power play? And I think you got to go back quite a few years to do that. Now, I'm not taking anything away from a guy like Mika Zibanejad, who sets himself up at the top of the circle and tries to blast one through, but I'm talking about a big defenseman from the point that could fire off a shot. I mean, we saw briefly when the Rangers tried to go out and address that in like a McCabe and a Yandel type player, but I mean, it would be nice to see if the Rangers can maybe bring in somebody like that could develop into a big point man when it comes to the power play.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That
But
would be
a
wonderful.
lot of wish lists things for the Rangers. But as we continue here on the New York Hockey Report, we're talking to Leslie Treff of New York Sports Day. I want to just flip over now and get the other two local teams to talk about
Sure.
before we get to the Devils, because they've kind of slipped down a little bit. I do want to talk about the Islanders because they are the first place Islanders right now, and this is the first place Islanders post John Tavares. They're sitting in the number one spot in the Metropolitan Division at 8-4-2, 18 points. Yeah, it's a 1 point lead over Washington and Columbus, but they're playing really good hockey. 6-2-2 in their last 10. It seems to be that they are buying into, Barry Trotz's system, but also they're finally getting some good goaltending, and Thomas Greiss has been the reason for that. Just give me your overall thoughts on what you've seen so far from the Islanders and what has surprised you the most.
Well, I'm never surprised when we're talking about Trotz and Lamoriello. Never surprised that there's a significant uh, improvement in play. Um, I think that the Islanders are sort of playing above themselves right now, and they're getting very good goaltending. Uh, but I don't think this is a permanent condition, and I don't think that these goaltenders, both Lehner and Grace, are the future of the Islanders. I mean, there are two goaltenders in the wings that are possibilities. Well, there's three, but there's only two that I consider to be top prospects. One is Soderstrom, and the other one is Sorokin. Um, I don't know if either one of them are going to be able to come in the near future. They were hoping Soderstrom would come this year, but he's out injured. He hasn't played. Um, and this is the second year that he's had injuries and problems. So I don't know if that's going to come to pass, but I do think that that Barry Trotz's system works well for the current Islanders, and that's why they're playing so well.
Now, you look at that, and we understand Lou Lamoriello has said that his plan coming in is to also kind of build this organization up a little bit, kind of not trade draft picks and things like that. But when you have a start like this, as we mentioned in first, then we understand that and they might not be able to sustain this type of play, almost like what we were talking about with the Rangers. So then, if you're Lou Lamoriello, then when you're getting close to the trade deadline, what are the Islanders then? Are they buyers? Are they sellers? What if they do actually surprise some people and are in the hunt of things? What do they do? And how does Lou Lamoriello, who I feel like is one of those wizards out there that can still turn something into something bigger, that he could turn, a trade into something bigger and improve this team without really giving up much. So, that's the question now is where would the Islanders be heading, when it comes to the trade deadline?
Well, I have a problem when I think of Lou, and I think of what I know of Lou. Uh, I don't know him really well, but what I've seen over the years, I think he would be hesitant to trade away assets, even assets like Eberle, let's say, who may not be may not be back. If he has a chance in the playoffs, I think that if they're in the playoff hunt, he's not going to be trading away some assets that he would need in the playoffs. I think, it may be terrible to say, but I think he may prefer to let Eberle go than trade him away if he has a real chance at the playoffs. I may be wrong. I don't know. It's my gut feeling. Um, it may not be a popular opinion, but I just think that that's a possibility. I think that there's going to be some, you know, uh, issues with re-signing some of the players. Eberle is the one that I'm most concerned about. I just don't see him resigning here. But I don't know. Maybe